Boom, 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 boom. And we are live, Katie. Live, live, live. Did I get myself a drink? Maybe. Maybe I did, but barely. Barely. So, this is an impromptu episode of the Fortean Files. Let's see if the lovely let's see if this will work. We'll find out. Can you hear this, Katie?
Sure can.
Look at that.
Coming through.
All right. Well, then we'll play the news theme then. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We decided to do this little impromptu episode about the Danny Masterson verdict because we are going to delve into the Staircase documentary, the story of the death of Kathleen Peterson. And we don't want to take away any time from that, because that is going to be a very long and in-depth discussion.
It is hefty.
There's a lot to go over. So we figured we would do this today just to go over what has happened. So I believe it was on Wednesday.
I've been off on my days lately.
I want to say it was Wednesday. I actually grabbed a news story for us for this.
Nice.
So,
good.
From the NewYorkTimes.com. Oh, God. Fucking, no, I'm not going to take it from there. Not going to take it from the NewYorkTimes.com.
Scratch that.
Yep, we will scratch that. Those motherfuckers. I was able to read it earlier.
Fucking bitches.
I was able to read it earlier.
Of course.
Let me see here what I can find. This is pretty. It doesn't take very long. Let's go. Let's see. We'll go. Let's see if this one will give us something. Nope, that gives me literally 0. So we'll close that one out, Katie.
I could probably off the cuff it. I mean,
let's see. Yeah, that says nothing. It's just a video. Thank you so much for that. Could I get something with some fucking text that goes along with it? Let's see. Oh, look at that. We got something. From Variety.com.
okay.
Danny Masterson convicted on 2 counts of forcible rape, faces 30 years in prison. This was May 31st, which was Wednesday. I do believe it was Wednesday.
Good job.
I know I texted you the live link day of. So,
yes.
Danny Masterson, the former star of That 70s Show, was convicted Wednesday on 2 counts of forcible, we're going to call it sexual assault. The jury could not reach a verdict on the third charge, deadlocking a vote of 8-4 in favor of conviction. Masterson faces a potential sentence of 30 years to life in prison on the 2 charges. Shortly after the clerk read the guilty verdicts, there was an audible gasp from Masterson's family, who were seated in the audience. Masterson was accused of sexually assaulting 3 women at his Hollywood Hills home between 2001 and 2003. The jury convicted him of sexually assaulting 2 women in 2003, but could not reach a verdict verdict on an allegation from November 2001 involving a former girlfriend. After the verdict was read, Masterson was handcuffed and taken into custody. Judge Charlene Almedo denied a defense request that he remain free until sentencing. A hearing was set for August 4th. I'm not going to go too much further into that.
A clarification. I wouldn't say they got it wrong, but he's not potentially facing 30 years to life. There is a minimum sentence of 15 years each for those two charges he was convicted on. So he is guaranteed a minimum 30 years in prison.
Right, but I was listening to the Zach Morgan with Aaron Smith-Levin, and he said it depends on what type of state that California is. If California is an 80% state, then he will. If he gets that minimum 30-year sentence, he technically only has to 24 years.
Right.
So
right, but he's still, his sentence is going to be 30 years.
Unless the judge decides to be lenient.
I don't think there's a big.
I don't think that's going to happen.
The
interesting thing in this case is that initially it was a mistrial, right? The first trial was a mistrial. They couldn't come to any consensus on any one of the
any
three
charges.
Right. Excuse me. Whereas here, they came to a consensus on 2. That 8-4 on the third I think is significant.
I understand it. I can see why when you look at the jury instructions and like what they had to mental gymnastics maneuver around, like the crux of getting a guilty verdict.
Mm-hmm.
Jane Doe 3, it was muddier. The facts were
right.
more spread out and a little bit muddier. And when you get into the law, I could see where maybe there were a few people were like, hey, according to the way this law is written, these puzzle pieces don't quite fit. So like that one, I think is a little more understandable.
And I think the other interesting thing about this time around, this trial, is that Judge Almedo allowed in testimony about how Scientology deals with these type of reports, because there are like rules in Scientology about how you are allowed to go to the police and I guess whether or not you're allowed to file a report, and technically I guess you're not allowed to file a report or to have charges brought up against another Scientologist.
Right. Yes.
They will claim that you're supposed to obey the rules of the law and to do, but
there's plenty of written policy that directs you to not involve civil authorities.
Right.
Correct.
So this is an interesting case because there were already Scientology documents that had been written up about this case because it had already been brought to their attention.
Right.
I believe Priscilla Presley was involved with this.
Yeah, she would have testified in, I think, a different adjacent case. Maybe this one too. But,
but she passed away.
Yeah.
So it's a sad thing that it happened to these women. I think I tend to believe that justice is served here.
Yes, I think it's an amazing thing that after all these years, these women can still seek justice and get it. I think that's important.
I wonder what the fallout is from all of this. I know that there's been some statements that have been issued by Scientology. I know that they're assuming that some policies are going to change because of this, but
of course they're gonna say that. I mean, that's.
But again, like I was listening to Aaron again today to brush up on what he had said and stuff. Have some of the stuff fresh in my mind. And he was like, "Yeah, they can say that, but they can always roll it back."
Yeah, of course. They can also rename stuff and rebrand it, and it's
right. And he was
they're
talking
gonna do
about
what they're gonna
he was
do.
he was talking about how they'd given everybody back their passports, I guess. Because that come to find out that they didn't realize that that's a crime.
Right.
Holding
Yeah.
someone's passport,
That's one of
holding
their other
someone's
big
travel
things.
documents.
That's one of the big things that threatens bringing Scientology down is their human trafficking that they commit. I mean, that's literally what they do. So if they're
Yeah,
stopping that, that's good for them. But
yeah.
they've got a lot working against them. They got in trouble through this trial too. I mean, there was some documentation that was leaked to Scientology, some discovery from this case
Yeah.
that came out in
Oh
court.
yeah. They're looking into there's gonna be a hearing about it.
Yes, somebody's in trouble. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like not a good thing that happened. Those
The,
lawyers are in
but
trouble.
they I was listening to Zach Morgan, and he was saying that nothing will come of it. They'll have the hearing, but nobody's going to be arrested or anything because of it.
No, but I think legally this is going to be another bullet point for other cases that
That deal with Scientology.
yes, when it comes to attacking
Yeah.
Scientology legally, this will at least be a bullet point in somebody else's lawsuit, you
Yeah, it
know.
definitely could be.
So, they're racking up the hits right now for sure. And I think that's a
Oh
good
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Scientology aside, I'm really glad that justice was found for these women. Even if Scientology wasn't involved, what happened to them is horrible. And what Danny did is gross.
Oh yeah, most
And the fact that
definitely.
he got away with it for as long as he did is gross.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well, I
pleased.
mean, he was drugging these women,
So messed up.
um, and I'm not going to go into any of the finer details of it, but it wasn't pleasant for these people.
No.
Let's just say. So like I said, I feel like justice was done here. I think that I think that because of the amount that Scientology knew, the documentation that went on,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they can't in some way be culpable. I don't.
I
I don't
agree.
get it. I don't understand it. I wish that there was a way for them to be culpable
Right.
or responsible in some way for, that I don't know, withholding evidence from the police, like withholding evidence of a
It's
crime. I
when
don't
you
know I'm not a lawyer, so I don't
when
know.
you think about Scientology in the context of a church, which they claim to be, you think of those type of figureheads as being unofficial mandated reporters. They're not, but like we look at them and it's that way of like a moral somebody you can lean on, and they're clearly the opposite of that. And I think that's what muddies the waters because a rational person looks at this and was like, yeah, somebody needs to be held responsible. Like this was a really immoral direct action that this church did to cover up a crime.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel like they did a lot to cover this crime up.
Yes, for a lot of people too. Danny is not the only one that
Well,
they had
because
people
it
coming to them and saying stuff was happening.
well, and if you know anything about how Scientology works, you listen to any of the stuff from former Scientologists, they don't believe that when something bad happens to you, you're responsible for that.
Yes.
Like, so that's pretty dark.
Yes. When you have something happen to you, they ask you, well, what did you do to
What,
pull it in?
what did you do to bring this on upon yourself?
Which is
You know,
so,
that's dark.
it's jacked. Like, it's mental manipulation. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And it should absolutely be a crime, but that's the way this church operates. And It shouldn't be considered a church, and that's really like what I'm looking forward to
In
when they
my
say,
in my opinion, yeah, I agree completely. It should not be considered a church. I don't. I mean, it's I guess it's like a little club, but
well,
I don't.
luckily that club is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it does seem to be shrinking,
Hmm.
which is good. We'll see where that leads. I'm hopeful that it leads to the end of it, or at least to the end of its tax exempt status
Yes.
at
Well,
this
that would be
point.
huge. The end of their tax exempt status would eventually equal the end of Scientology. I
Yeah,
mean, it would
and I
crumble
think
them.
I think that the voices that are coming out now to speak out about Scientology, you know, in en masse, so to speak. Like,
Right.
there's so many people that have like jumping on this train of
Hmm.
speaking out about Scientology, that were in Scientology, um, and then you've got a lot of these YouTube personalities that are delving into this stuff.
Right.
You and I just like to talk about the cult side of things. This is a specific case that you and I were kind of invested in.
Oh, yeah.
We were watching like very heavily.
Hmm.
So I was a fan of the 70 show when I was a kid, when I was
Joe,
younger.
my husband, he's
Yeah.
grossly devastated.
Yeah. Of
But he was a
course.
big fan of The Ranch too. That well, in that '70s, he literally quotes something from that '70s show every single day of his life. Like he
Yeah,
can't
like that 70
exist
show
without
was
it.
a
So
was it was a funny show for its time. I
yeah,
remember it being on. I was young. I wasn't a kid. I was young. I was
I
like
was a
probably in my
kid, but
20s.
yeah,
Um maybe late teens, but uh it's a fucking bummer. Of course it's a fucking bummer.
yeah,
You never want to hear that somebody that you enjoyed on screen or anywhere for that matter, any type of artist, you
right.
never want to hear that something that you've enjoyed that they've created
Hmm.
is now kind of, in a way, feels tarnished because of that one person,
Yep.
And I'm not saying that I couldn't go back and watch the '70s show
Right.
and
It was literally
enjoy
on the
it.
TV tonight, and we were
Yeah,
watching it, and it
yeah,
was like, wow,
that's fine.
yeah,
I can separate the art from the artist, so to speak.
sure.
But in a way, like, so when all this went down, he was immediately fired from the ranch.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, so obviously, it's gonna have some type of a stain on these things.
yeah. I actually, before the show tonight, I was watching a video, which I don't watch Tony Ortega very much. He's not my favorite, but
Right.
he put out a video with Danny Masterson's ex stepdad that's been very close to him his whole life, but is
Mm-hmm.
a declared suppressive person since 2005.
Yeah.
Um, and he's the biological father to his other two celebrity Scientology siblings, Alana and whatever the other brother's name is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an hour long, but it was really good. Told the whole story of like their Scientology upbringing and this stepfather's involvement in it. And it was really fascinating. I had no idea. Um, but yeah, it's interesting because Alana Masterson, that Masterson was not her last name. She chose that last name after her dad. But now, like, she's stuck with this Masterson name. And it's interesting, like, what is going to happen to these siblings who are celebrities in their own right? How are they going to keep their loyalty, but still move on as a celebrity, you know?
Right. Right.
Because they're
Yeah.
very loyal to their family. Very, very loyal.
It'd be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing, the rallying around of people for him. Like, I know his whole family's in Scientology.
Yeah.
Aaron was saying he's pretty much broke though.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Like, I can't imagine that, though. With everything that he's been in, as long as he's been acting, he was in the 70s show, like, and he's fucking broke.
I
Like,
think
you
he's
fucking
broke in
must
the
have spent some
sense.
money.
I think he's broke in that he doesn't have any like significant excess like a normal person has investments. I think he's lost all those, but he does still have residuals keeping him afloat. I think
Right.
that's most likely where he's at.
Yeah.
But
Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes, where the sentencing goes.
yeah,
You know, they've all said he's not gonna be in like Gen Pop or anything
no,
like that.
definitely not.
So it'll be very interesting to see, you know, how long he gets sentenced for.
Right, like the actual final
Yeah,
verdict.
because like they were saying, no matter what, he's gonna be an old man by the time he's out.
Yep. Because
Like
he's
it isn't gonna
already
matter.
49 right now, I think.
47. He's my age.
47. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's my age. So
either way, he's going to be
even
old.
if he gets the minimum and he gets out in the 80% time of 24
Right.
years, he's 71.
Wow.
24 years, 71.
Wow.
Yeah, you can sit around and hang out for a little bit before you kick off. That's pretty much what's going to happen.
Well,
So
I
it's
think that with the given the amount of time he got away with it, I find that highly appropriate.
I agree. Over the course of this whole thing, watching these videos and stuff, of course, things pop up. Well, I caught something today that sparked my interest, cult related. I was thinking that you and I should watch some cult movies. Specifically, I saw some. I watched a guy who deprograms cults rate cult movies,
Oh yeah.
and there was a couple of them that I was thinking that we should seriously look into.
All right. That sounds fun.
And one of them is loosely based on L. Ron Hubbard, and it's called The Master with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Ooh, I love him.
Yes, and God rest his soul. He's gone.
Yes.
He's left us.
That's so unfortunate.
Yes. Oh, it is. I loved Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He is a class
him.
act. He was
Loved
just
him.
so great.
Best. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, actually that one I haven't.
With Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke. Opening scene. Philip Seymour Hoffman in all his fucking fat ass glory, railing the shit out of Marissa Tomei.
Wow.
That's the opening scene of the fucking movie.
That's quite the start.
Right?
Just kicking it off.
But the dude had such stage confidence in any role.
He captured me as a small child in Twister.
I was going to say Boogie Nights.
No, Twister. I loved Twister as a kid. Like, I'm a storm kid. I love weather. I love storms. And that movie, I watched it over and over and over again. And even in that simple of like a basic role, he was so fucking fantastic.
The movie's horrible.
Shame on you. Blasphemy. Shame.
The movie's horrible.
You take it
so horrible.
back.
No, I won't. I won't. Hey, I watched it and loved it when it came out. I did. But
That was like the highlight of my childhood. That and Titanic.
In retrospect, The Extreme.
Such a good movie. Oh man, now I want to go watch it. I haven't seen it.
But anyway, I was thinking we should watch The Master. And there's
Okay.
another one that he said was probably the best cult movie ever made, and it has the Olsen
Elizabeth
girl there.
Olsen.
Yeah, the one that still acts.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah, and I had no idea that this movie was even out there.
What is it?
Like, I never missed it. I forget the fucking name. I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll look it up on her IMDb.
I like her. She's good. She's very talented.
Right, but I know that I had heard of The Master before. I've just never watched it. I've never, it's one of those things I've never sat down and checked out. But when I was checking that out earlier, I said, yeah, Katie and I should fucking maybe sometime in the future, like watch The Master and
Yeah.
just kind of go over it. Something I've never seen.
Right.
I didn't realize that it was loosely based on L. Ron Hubbard. And for the record, folks, I do have L. Ron Hubbard fiction.
You do.
And I'm not talking about Dianetics.
No.
I'm talking about fiction. I picked up his 10-book Mission Earth series, Mission Earth series, and I do have Battlefield Earth as well. And I have every intention of reading them.
Someday.
And my reason behind it is I have to read the fiction of a dude that made a fucking religion.
It's like a dark curiosity. Like, you gotta know.
I've got to understand it to some degree. Like, is it any good? Is it?
I doubt it is. I bet you it's shit.
Maybe. I don't know yet.
You let me know.
We'll find out. I will definitely let you know.
If you say it's not shit, I might give one of them a try.
I read it early on when I was a kid, and I don't remember it. And I started reading it again a little while ago. And from what I remember, I didn't hate it. I can honestly say I didn't hate it. But I wasn't focused on it at the time. And it was back when I was still reading physical books, and I was having a hard time reading physical books because of my eyes.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this because that's why I got my Kindle, so I could have the bigger, print, because I'm an old man. Shit happens. But yeah, so I do intend to read some of his fiction and see what the fuck the hubbub is all about. Because why not? I mean, there's got to be something there.
No.
There's got to be something there.
Does there?
That many. He had.
Well, that's true.
He had quite the following in science fiction.
He did, and he had a following before he even made the cult. So,
yeah,
I guess that's fair.
Yeah,
good for you, Chris.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm going to check it out and see what happens. But I do think that we should look into some cult movies. Whether they be fictionally based or based on a real events or whatnot.
Did you ever watch any of The Handmaid's Tale?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either.
But
it looks fascinating. But
he mentioned that was one of the ones that was brought up, and he mentioned that there's a lot of the scenes in that are very, very true to life about how things would be in situations like that inside of a cult.
Yeah.
But I'm very fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the brainwashing that goes on. How people are made to believe that they're trapped when they really aren't sometimes. And in Scientology, they'll try to forcefully keep you in. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. That's been allegedly alleged.
Right. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because that show, the podcast I was listening to with Tony Ortega and Danny Masterson's stepdad, he was a refund handler for Scientology. So when one of their big rich people got upset and started demanding money back, they flew this guy out to come and smooth things over. Right. And try to talk him out of the refund and, mediate. He was like a Scientology money mediator. And it sounds like he was really good at it. I mean, I had no idea this guy existed until today. It was a really fascinating hour-long thing. I highly recommend it.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. But, yeah, I don't know that there's much more we can say about it right now. He's in jail. Mm-hmm. He did get taken to jail from the courthouse. He was cuffed at the courthouse.
Fast.
And I assume he's segregated from the normal population because of who he is, because of the crime that he committed.
Mm-hmm. It's really a pretty bad combination he's got going for him there.
He's awaiting sentencing on August 4th, right? I believe it is.
Something like that. It's a while.
I want to say. Yeah, it's a bit. So, obviously we'll keep you posted on that. Probably on the regular show whenever the sentencing comes down from the judge. I'm very curious to find out what it's going
Yeah,
to be.
that'll be interesting to watch too.
Yeah, and there's a few other court cases that are in the works with that. Not with the Danny Masterson thing, with other things with Scientology
Scientology related, yeah.
that I'm awaiting. So we'll be back actually tomorrow night. Like I said, this was just an impromptu episode. I figured I'd label it an episode and throw it up. It's going to be a short one, but just because we wouldn't be able to get into this tomorrow and talk about it and basically like unpack it as much as we would have wanted to, and do the staircase thing and all the other stuff that we do on the normal show. So
Right.
we figured we'd jump on tonight and at least touch base on this whole thing, because this is something that was pretty near and dear to Katie's and my hearts.
Been committed.
Yeah, we've been watching it through the whole thing. I watched all of the first one, all the coverage of the first one, and then they had the mistrial, and
They brought it back though.
they did. The turnaround was fast, and I did not expect that. I was
I didn't
like,
either.
I was like, are they going to retry him? Are they even going to bother?
Right. Yeah, that was a question for a while there.
But listen, I guess the prosecution really tightened up their case.
They did a great job this
And
time around for sure.
yeah, I think allowing the jury to hear about how these things are handled within Scientology was the way to go, because
Yeah.
how else do you give them the right perspective?
Right. It really tightened up the story and put pieces together that really made it easy to see these women as true victims
Yeah.
of something awful.
Yeah. So we will keep you updated from here on out on this. But as far as Katie and I are concerned, we feel like justice has been served in
Yeah.
this case. So we hope to see some people tomorrow night for the live show. It'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will see you then. Be good to one another. Hopefully my levels were okay tonight. I got a new mic,
Yeah.
and Katie and I were fucking around with it, but Katie keeps saying my levels are okay to her, and then
They
I
sound
listen
good
to
to
it
me.
and it sounds like I'm screaming at everybody. So
We'll
we
get
will
there.
find out. I did adjust my levels tonight, so hopefully after I listen to this tonight, I can adjust them a little more for tomorrow night for a better sound experience. So
Yes.
until then, be good to one another out there, everybody. It's a fucking jungle. So we'll see you tomorrow night.